Alright, so initially I wanted to run this with Eternal Sugar and Cream Ferret, you know, as a normal person, and then standard QTE shenanigans of slow movement speeds, long animations, and that happened. But I still decided to play out the run, and yeah, it turns out there's also a massive sustain check on this phase as well. So, potential woman it is. Realistically, Eternal Sugar is probably better than putting a mode here, but I'm gonna be honest, I did this at like midnight. I just could not be bothered with dealing with the quick time events and Eternal Sugar having her long attack animation, getting stuck and then not being able to dodge, yada yada. But anyway, this team comp is obviously not going to be the best and it's nowhere close to as good as the speedrunning team. However, this team works if you just want to clear, and I'm assuming a lot more people are aiming for challenge mode clears for the 30 radiance for every ticket, which is incredible. And for the speedrunning team, you need to have a build Fire Spirit, you need a Fire Damage Beast Kit, and then you need Cream Unicorn. I'm assuming a lot of people don't have cookies like those. Meanwhile, Sugarfly, she doesn't have a magic candy. You can just slap her together with a decent build. Star Coral, Black Lemonade, and Twizzly and Pudding All Mode are all really good epic cookies that a lot of people have built. I'm probably not going to go that in-depth into the mechanics of the boss. I do have a previous video from about a year ago that goes into way better detail into how this team works and the little shenanigans of the boss. And there's also the annoying quick time events, which are really not obvious unless you actually know the patterns. But realistically, you're only gonna see Ruinous Blade, and at least that one's really easy because you only need to memorize 3 positions. So I guess I should start talking a bit about the team. Starting off with Starcoil Sugarfly, this is, I think, the best healing core for epics only, and might actually be one of the best healing cores in general. Sugarfly is an incredible raw healer because she has a 6-second cooldown, which you can reduce all the way down to like 3 seconds. And then her healing is a periodic heal over 10 seconds, so you can stack 3 of her heals, which is insane. And then Star Coral gives all of the stats that Sugarfly wants: crit, attack, and then team-wide amplify buffs, so your entire team receives more healing. Oh, and minor optimization here. I actually should have kind of reduced my damage a little bit here by using less Twizz and Palm skills, because I was really close, or at least somewhat close, to charging up that 3rd fist power-up, and that would have been about 200 million damage, and that would have brought me to the next phase, and I could have one-cycled it essentially. That's just something to consider if you want to aim for a high score with Electric. And also, with the weakness mechanic where you can tap one of the shields to apply, I think, 50% weakness on the specific foot, I found that you can actually min-max things by trying to make sure that the damage is as even as possible, so you're maximizing AoE. But aside from that, yeah. Going back to the team comp, Black Lemonade is Black Lemonade. She applies Electrifying Rock Speeder to the rest of your team, which makes you deal extra damage based off of Black Lemonade's stats every time your team crits. And then that buff actually stacks infinitely. And you want high hit frequency characters with high crit damage, so Twizzly, Pudding All Mode, and then Twizzly also buffs Black Lemonade's electric type attack, and Pudding All Mode gives everybody attack and crit, so it's just an extremely synergistic team comp. And luckily they don't have damage immunity or like insane damage resistance in this beast raid, unlike the Silent Salt beast raid, which basically bans anything that isn't dark/steel type and light type damage. And you can actually carry the Electrifying Rock Spirit all the way through to the end of the battle, so you're constantly scaling your damage as the fight goes on. So even if they're not being actively benefited, and in fact the crit damage down debuff and attack speed down debuff does hurt the electric comp quite a bit, the fact that they're not hindered in any way is enough for the electric comp to still work. And then watch, because it's a lot of cooldown, and cooldown is a really difficult stat to build. Scroll, I mean, you can consider Whistle, but 15% crit is not worth 20% attack. And for Necklace, considering you're using the singular team throughout the entire 3-4 minute battle, it is significantly better than Whistle here. The increased attack, the increased eventual crit is really nice, but on top of that, crit damage is a very rare stat. We only have Sugarfly giving, what, 15% in this comp? And crit damage is very important for a cookie like Pudding Almond, who doesn't have any crit damage on her base kit. And crit damage is actually one of the few stats where the stat of the cookie activating ERS matters compared to Black Lemonade's actual stats. So it ends up being a big damage boost. And luckily, Black Lemonade only died at the very end there. Especially with Sugarfly being genuinely a really good healer, just really niche. But luckily, I'm pretty sure this boss bypasses damage resist. So her lack of team-wide damage resist, as well as her own fragility, doesn't come into play here. Alright, time for the actual builds. Keep in mind that the crit cap for Electric Cookies is 32.5 and the crit cap for Sugarfly and Star Coral is 47.5. For Black Lemonade, you want max attack and then full electric damage on the beast kit, and you want cooldown subs. For Pudding Almond, you want the crit cap, the cooldown cap which is 35 for everyone, and then max amplify buff, preferably a 2-piece with the tart, with a full cooldown beast kit. And the exact same for Drizzly Gummy. Amplify buff is there because the tart is very efficient at giving amplify buff, as well as the 2-piece, and it extends the buff duration of ERS, so you're less likely to run out. And you can actually afford to build it because you don't need any other stats. Sugarfly max crit, max cooldown, max attack, ignore the damage resist. I didn't know the boss bypassed damage resist. And the same thing for Star Coral. If you found the video helpful, then you know the deal. Like, subscribe, share, comment. See ya.